Good morning, everybody. New day, new project. So these are the snow tires that came with my 2012 WRX. They are included in the deal. They are Bridgestone Blizzak WS90s on a 16-inch stock Subaru rim. The rims are all in really pretty bad shape. Just a lot of paint peeling, some curb rash, which I'm not too concerned about, but just they look pretty crappy, and I just spent a lot of time making the rest of the car look nice. So we're going to try and make these look nice today. As you probably have already seen in the thumbnail, I'm going to try to make these gold and see how they look. Going to do one wheel and see how it turns out, and then if it turns out good, I'll do the rest of the wheels off camera. So this will be the test subject. So I got a bunch of stuff I'm going to be doing today. The first thing we got to do is clean the wheel really well, get all the grease and dirt off of it so the paint will stick. Got to sand it down a little bit to just smooth it out. We're going to mask it off and prime it because we'll probably be getting down to bare metal on some of the sanding work. And then, yeah, we're going to hit it with some paint. So for tools, at least part of the tools in this part, dishwashing detergent. First thing, this is just normal, like off-the-shelf dishwashing detergent you'd use to clean your dishes. It's really good at removing grease and wax, so we'll start with that. Then I'm going to do a rub down with IPA on the wheel before we do any sanding, because I want to try and get as much of the contamination off the wheel as possible. It is, if there is contamination left on the wheel, there is a chance that when you're sanding it, you can sand it into the base material, and then you'll have issues with paint later. So it's good to get it as clean as possible first. Then I've got a drill with some assortment of wire wheels to just kind of do a rough pass, and then some 360 grit sandpaper to smooth out. So those are the tools for the first section. After we start applying paint, I'll go over what paint I'm using and the other tools I have at that point. I'm gonna do all the prep work outside of the garage. I'm gonna paint inside the garage where I have a heater going. That way it keeps the dust outside and the heat inside. So that's enough talking. Let's get this project started. Alright, so that's one wheel scuffed up and cleaned up a little bit. I tried to feather any kind of like divots in the paint as much as I could. Like I said, this car, I'm not going for show car. These are winter tires. I just want them to look better than they did before. Even in this state, they look better than they did before. So I had to go down to a 120 grit. That was that like purple color sandpaper for some of the tougher spots around here where the paint was really flaking. Used a Dremel in a couple spots to speed it up. Washed it all down. IPA, once again, just to clean everything up. I'm going to leave it out in the sun here for 10 or 15 minutes to completely dry. We'll bring it inside and start getting it prepped for primer. All right, moved inside the garage after it's had some time to dry outside. I'm gonna hit it with one more swipe of IPA and I'm gonna start masking. From this point out, I'm just gonna try not to actually touch any part of the wheel with ungloved hands or even gloved hands, because if I touch part of the rubber on the tire or something and then get in there, it could cause some contamination issues. So yeah, wipe this down again. So what the primer is going to do is, well, we sanded it with sandpaper. That 320 will help the primer stick to whatever's there, whether it's bare metal or paint. The primer is going to let the paint stick to it, and hopefully it'll fill in some of these issues the wheel has. And we might have to do a couple coats of primer and sand, but we'll see how rough it looks after the first coat of primer. It looks like at some point that these wheels may have had plastic dip or something on them, which I'm hoping isn't going to be too much of a problem, but we'll see. All right, so those have been wiped down, some IPA. Now the way I'm going to mask this, which I'm sure if you've looked online on how to paint wheels, is I'm going to try to use the index card method, which is instead of just putting strips of tape in here and trying to get it, just going to jam an index card in all the way around. All right, I tried that index card method, and man, I've seen it used 100 million times on the internet. I couldn't get it to work. The cards either didn't feel like they were going to stay in, and they just weren't overlapping very well. So I used the tape method. I think there's a couple advantages to it. It's a little tedious, which is a disadvantage. However, I can get further down underneath the bead here, which gives me better access to paint the edge of the lip here. Basically just a bunch of little pieces of tape, jam them in there. I used my plastic razor blade to kind of tuck it in and make sure that it's flat. And then I'm gonna get some like kind of plastic produce bags from the grocery store type thing and just mask the rest of this, and then we'll be good to go. All right, so the last can of primer, there was something wrong with it. It's splattering. Hopefully it's not an issue and I can sand it out later. I got a new can of primer, so I'm just gonna pick up where I left off. Obviously not ideal. All right, 10 minutes have passed. We're going in for coat 2. Okay, we're up to the third coat, which means a much or more of a medium coat. They want it to be wet, so there should be a little bit of sheen on it. This is where I typically screw up and put a run in something, so I'm going to try not to do that this time. Okay, you can kind of see this is a little bit more reflective than the last couple of coats. So that's nice and wet on there. I think I got pretty decent coverage. I'm going to let this sit up for half an hour and then we can go ahead and wet sand it. Okay, at this point I have a decision to make whether I want to wet sand the wheel, then dry it, remask it, and put the color coat on, or just go straight to the color. And honestly, I didn't do the best job kind of feathering all of the imperfections out. I don't think wet sanding is going to improve it that much, and I think it's just introducing water at this stage is going to cause more problems than it will help. So I think for this wheel, I'm just gonna go straight to color and see what it looks like. I don't even know if I like the color, and I'm gonna have to sand it all back down anyway. So we're gonna move the color. All right, it's gonna be the same process as before. 2 light coats followed by 1 medium wet coat with 10-minute dry time in between. With this paint, everything has to be done in an hour. So we should be right on track for that. All right, time for the second coat. All right, this is the make it or break it coat. Could all go to hell if I don't get this right. All right, that seems to have gone pretty well. I'm gonna let this set up. Hopefully we don't get any paint reactions, and check it. It's an hour to dry. I think I can get 2 wheels out of 1 can of primer and 1 can of color, which means I'm gonna have to go out and get another set of stuff, so a little bit more consumables. But I'm gonna work on prepping the other rims while this one's drying up. All right, that's it. I am super happy with how this came out. Debating about whether I should be putting a clear coat on it. I think it's optional. Guess I'm gonna see what happens without it. They're not perfect. You can see there's like some little things in there that I would have had like sand and prime, but I think they're good. Yeah, I'm super happy with that finish. All right, let's go see what they look like next to the car.
All right, here's the final result. I'm extremely happy with how this turned out for the 50 or 60 bucks worth of paint I invested into it and the few hours of my time. I did end up putting a clear coat on there just to give a little bit extra protection. If these weren't snow tires, if these weren't stock rims, and I actually cared a little bit more about this, I think powder coating would definitely be the way to go. It'd be a lot easier, just drop the wheels off and you get them back, I think, and they would also be a little bit more resilient in the long run. However, you know, I want these to look good, but I don't care about it, you know, it's not a show car. So I think this is the right level of durability for the amount of time and effort I put in. So once again, if you got anything out of this video, please hit the subscribe button and stay tuned to see what we do next on Subaru.